Hey there, greetings everyone. Daniel Lauer here, and today we are going to be taking a look at a boot to root CTF challenge from VulnHub. It is called DC-1, the first in the DC series, not the comic books. That's right, you're going to find that on VulnHub. I'll put a link in the description below. Now, the cool thing about DC-1 is it's very beginner friendly. So if you're wanting to learn about offensive type of security, ethical hacking, pen testing, that kind of stuff, this is a great first challenge for you because it's got a lot of the things that you learn in a course like, I don't know, off the top of my head, I'm going to go with Pentest Plus. So maybe if you've taken a Pentest Plus course or you're wanting to learn about Pentest Plus and the things you need to pass the Pentest Plus, I know someone that's got a course that's all about that, link in the description. So if you needed that information, that would be available for you. But then you could take those things that you're learning and you can apply them in a real way. And that's what things like this are really great for. So without further ado, I say we jump on in and get to, hey, how do we hack something? That said, the disclaimer is always that we don't hack on things that we do not own or have to express permission to hack on. That's illegal, and we do not condone that here. All right, so moving on. Now we can do this stuff. Let's start off with the fact that we're going to do host discovery. We're going to use Nmap. Nmap dash, I'm going to do T5 dash, I'm going to do dash SN. That's right, because we're just doing a regular old ping scan against my network, which is 10.10.10.0, and I have a /24. Fire that off. Okay, and there we go. Looks like we're done. And this is my IP address, so that's not it. I know that's not it either. Also not it. So it must be this by, look at that. I even put this DC1.local. It's like I knew this was coming. So like I said, this is called DC1, but the IP there is 10.10.10.148. And now we're going to do a little enumeration of that specific device. So nmap dash, this is where the T5 dash N dash PN dash P dash, and then we give it I can do DC1.local, or I could give it the IP address of 10.10.10.148. Fire that off, and we can see we have a few ports available on there. Now, the T5 was just to give it some speed, to turn up the wick, as it were, on how fast it scans. Dash N says, hey, don't do name resolution. There's no reason for us to do that, nor ping it. That's the dash PN, don't ping. And then this dash P dash says, hey, look at all 65,535 ports, scan every last one of them, and see what you find that's open. We've got a few ports here that are open. So 2280, 111, and 56402. All right, from there, we're going to do another Nmap scan. And this time we're going to add a dash capital A. By the way, capitalization is important here. And that capital A is going to do things like OS guessing. It's also going to do service versioning. And it's also going to throw one more fun thing on the fire there, which, at least for our intents and purposes, is the fact that it does some vulnerability scanning as well, looking for some low-hanging fruit, as it were, using just safe vulnerability scanning scripts in the Nmap scripting engine. A lot to go on with that dash A right there. So I'll do dash T5 to pick it up again, and dash N dash PN, and then this time dash P, and we give it all the ports we want to do. 22, comma separated, 80, comma separated, 111, comma 56402, 56402. We give it our device, which is DC1.local, and you can see it'll do the same thing. Like I said, it doesn't matter if you're wondering, how does it know that DC1.local is 10.10.10.148? I'll show you that here in just a second. All right, finally done. Excellent stuff. Now I'll show you what I did there. To make that DC1.local actually work, you just do sudo nano etc hosts, put your password in, and you'll notice I just put this line right here. So 10.10.10.148, and I just named it DC1.local. Sometimes you can make it up like I did here. Sometimes there is actual virtual host that you need to be aware of and add that line so that things resolve correctly. But now that you know that's there, you just do Control-S, Control-X. That saves and exits, and you should be good. All right, I am going to clear a little bits, and from there, oh no, we'll need to rerun. We need that information now. I forgot to look at it. I got so mixed up with trying to show you how to do the virtual hosts and the etc host file that I totally forgot to actually look at the information there. All right, now that's back. Excellent, excellent. So let's see what we got going on here. Port 22 is open. That's SSH because that's the standard port for SSH. And now that we've done some scanning, we've got some banner and versioning information. We know that that's exactly the case. Might want to look and see if there's any vulnerabilities for that specific version. We also have port 80 open, which is the standard port for HTTP, which is showing up there. We see that the Apache web server is running. That's what HTTPD is, and it is version 2.2.22, running on Debian. But because we ran that -A, we also got some scripts that ran, and it gave a little bit more information like, hey, welcome to the Drupal site. Cool, we know we're running Drupal. HTTP generator is showing that it's running Drupal 7. We got more on the Apache 222, and then there's a robots.txt file. Interesting. So we've got title, we've got generator, we got server header, and we've got robots.txt with 36 disallowed entries. And that could be super useful information for us. So we definitely got a web server that we're going to want to take a look at. And we can see some interesting things already there that could be good information. And that's part of enumeration. That's what we do. We would want to run down every little bit of information there. Now, time being of the essence, we're already 7.5 minutes in or so, that we'll want to just keep moving quickly. We've got also RPC and some more stuff about RPC. So doing the attack path, I'm going to go with this is my most likely attack vector. We got a lot of information there, so that's where I would want to start. So let's do that. Let's go over here and in a new tab in a browser. I just got the browser open. I'll do dc1.local, or you can type in the IP address. That does drop us to a Drupal site. Cool. Now, some things that we could do immediately is, try to brute force our way in here, maybe look for default creds, try some really low-hanging fruit. But one of the things I do like to do is just do some research on Drupal or whatever the case is there. So I'll do Drupal 7 vulnerabilities. And I can see there's this thing called Drupalgeddon. Okay, what's Drupalgeddon? Drupalgeddon. What is it? Are you impacted? So this is from 2018, but there's also one here from 2014 from Drupal itself. So I'm going to go there. Let's see what's going on. So Drupal, still on Drupal 7? I think we are. Security support for Drupal 7 ended on 5th of January of 2025. That's good information for us. Because if we were actually doing a pen test or some ethical hacking, we would want to write that up in our report that it looks like you're using an old and outdated version. And you can go to OWASP top 10, and we can see that the OWASP top 10 has a specific entry for that. And let's see here. It is right there. A6, vulnerable and outdated components. You click on that and you can learn a little bit more about this. In the description, like if the software is vulnerable, unsupported, or out of date, this includes an OS, web application server, database management systems, applications, APIs, and all components, runtime environments, and libraries. If it is old and busted, you need to do something about it. And the cool thing about the OWASP specification is it tells you how to prevent, as well as example attack scenarios, references for it, and all sorts of great information about that specific type of attack. So it looks like Drupalgeddon is something we want to worry about there. It says we don't actually recommend that you use this tool except for academic purposes. Okay, that's great. So there must be some proof of concept. So cool. Drupalgeddon is what we're looking for. Let's go back and let's take a look. You know what might be out there? I bet Metasploit would be useful for us. So let's drop back in to our terminal and let's run MSF console. All right, now that that's running, we can do a search for Drupalgeddon. And we can see what's out there. I want to kind of reduce the size on this. So we've got Drupalgeddon 2, which may work. We could give this a shot. Let's go for, it's got different styles. So we got Drupal 7, PHP in-memory or dropper. In-memory is probably the way we want to go. So let's go with that, PHP in-memory. So I'm going to do use 5. Use 5 because it was number 5 on the list right there. You can see that right there. All right, let's use 5. And then from there, we're going to do options, TIONS. And we can see what do we need to set. So Metasploit framework, super useful for this kind of stuff. Now this was, it says Drupal 2, so this might be a little bit later, but we'll see if it works. If not, we'll try to look for something with Drupal 1. Do we need any of these things like dump output? It says required, no. PHP function, pass through, yes. Okay, we'll just go with what it says. This is not required. This is required. Our hosts, well, we know what that is. So we will set our hosts to DC1.local or the IP address. Let's go look at the options again. Make sure that that is now set, which it is. Our port is 80, and that is correct. The target URI is also just a /, also correct. So cool. Now, the only thing I need to change is my IP address because that's the wrong Ethernet adapter's address. So I'm going to set lhost to 10.10.10.146. If I want, I can also change the port, which I will. Why not? Set lport, and I'll put that on, 8888, just for fun. Now, when I do options, I'm going to see that's now on all the right settings. Perfection. Hopefully this all works. So now you can either type in run or exploit. If you want to be elite hacker, obviously you type in exploit because that's what's up. It says the service is running but could not be validated. Okay, well, we'll see what happens. Oh, look at that. Looks like Drupal 2 did work for us because it says Meterpreter session 1 has been opened, showing you all the information from 8888 to here. And of course, now I'm just kind of waiting for things to clean up. It should eventually drop me to a Meterpreter shell. It should say Meterpreter, just like that. Perfect. From there, we have a bunch of options, but I'm going straight for shell because you can do things like sysinfo to get some information about the device. You can do all sorts of other stuff as well that are built-in commands to Metasploit, but I'm just going to go with shell. And that gives me a shell. And you can see I can type in ID, I can type in host name, but it's a little ugly. You can't see a whole lot. I mean, it's good information and everything, but I'm going to clean this up with Python a little bit. So I'm going to do Python. Actually, I'm going to do which Python. I can see user bin Python. Okay, ls-al of /user bin. I cannot type. Can you do it, Daniel? You can. Python. There we go. And we can see that this is running Python 2.7. Good information to know there. All right, so there I will just run Python-C, and I'll just do this import pty, and then semicolon pty dot spawn of bin. My typing skills are known far and wide as being horrible. I am the world's worst typist, I think. There we go. That looks good. And you notice that kind of just cleans up. I get a prompt. Things are going to get a little nicer. There's other things that I could do to make this a much more useful shell, but this should be good for us now. Now, some of the things I like to do from here, now it's time for privilege escalation, because like I said, if we do ID, I can see I'm logged in as www.data, and I can do things like, oh, I don't know, let's do cat/etc password. The password file is going to show all the users that are in this system. And I can see I've got one right here, flag 4. Cool. Well, that's great. Maybe I can brute force my way in, because if I remember correctly, we did see that. Let's CT2 PenTest plus, and I will do this. We did see that there was port 22, SSH was open. So maybe we can use something like Hydra and see if there's any low-hanging fruit there with that user, and maybe privilege escalate to that specific user. Get out of this www data user business. So I'm going to use Hydra-L, and it was called flag4 was the username, flag4. Then I'm going to do a -P, and I'm going to give it a word list file of the rocku.txt. So user share word lists rocku.txt. That's where it exists by default in Kali Linux. All right, I've got that. Then I'm going to go after, I think, SSH:// and that is on DC1.local, and that should be good. Fire it off. All right, looks like we got a hit, and that's what we like to see. Right there, we got a really crappy password of orange for the user flag4. So that means I should be able to SSH in with those credentials unless it's not allowing for that. That would be a good safety precaution. But we'll see. So SSH as flag4, at DC1.local. Oh, man. I'm so sorry. You guys have to watch me type. All right, it's going to ask for the password, ORANGE. And oh, look, we are logged in. So now the whole interpreter thing that we've got going on here, that's nice to keep up as a backup. Maybe we need that again. But really, anytime we get disconnected, and we have a much better prompt by going in like this. So just a simple password brute force got us into a network enabled system. All right, cool. From here, we can start to enumerate anything out here. We also have some stuff. You can see where I've been in here before, running linps. And that's a great tool for us to be able to look for privilege escalation for even further. So maybe you run something like a script like linps, or there's a specific script. I'm forgetting. I'm blanking out on the name right now because my mind is racing at 1,000 miles an hour, and that's not a part of the show of what you can do. But there's a lot of them out there. The exploit suggester. That's what it is. The exploit suggester. But we can now read sensitive information like flag4.txt, right? Flag4.txt telling me I shouldn't be able to see this. But because I was able to brute force my way in, I now can actually read that information. But I want to keep going. Now, one of the first things I like to start off with is doing like sudo-l. And it says, hey, sudo command not found. Crazy. Most of the times you do find sudo in there, but in this system, for whatever reason, they don't have the sudo command. Well, all right then, that's fine. If I don't have sudo, my next favorite thing is SUID, or set user ID. All right, set UID is for the, or universal, I think it is. And what I can do there is look for commands that are running with elevated privileges and see if I can break out of that while the privileges are still elevated. So the way you can do that was just the old find command, and I will do find /-perm of -u equals s. So that means that bit is set, that SUID bit is set. Then I'm going to do a -type of f for just files, and then send anything that's an error or otherwise. I only want legitimate finds. I'll send everything to, I'll redirect dev null, which is the bit bucket. Fire it off, and now we take a look. We've got mount, we've got ping, we've got su, we've got ping6, umount. All of these things run with elevated privileges when they run. That's what this is telling us. And now we can go through this list, and let's jump over here. There's a lovely site called GTFO bins, GTFO bins. I'll let your imagination wonder what that stands for. But basically, it is a curated list of Unix binaries that can be used to bypass local security restrictions in misconfigured systems, right? So basically, I'm looking for things that I can do. Now, I could use this to get shell or run a command or get reverse shell or non-interactive shells, bind shells, lots of shell stuff. It used to just be like shell, SUID, sudo, and things of that nature, but they've obviously expanded the capabilities. But we can search this out. So if we go back and we look at things like mounts. So mounts. Well, UNT. So mount, if I had sudo, might be a privilege escalation vector. Okay, but I don't have sudo, so I can't use that. Let's try ping, see what that does. Look for ping. I've got fping and hping3. Nothing there. Still strike, swing and a miss, right? We've also got things like ping6. Now that did show up. No, it was fping. So sorry. But keep it on going, keep it on going. Now, just through my experience, most of this stuff, procmail might be useful. Let's take a look at that. Procmail. But that doesn't exist here, so it doesn't have a vector for privilege escalation. Let's try find. Right, the same command we just actually ran. Okay, so find, you can do shell, you can do file write, you can do SUID or sudo. Well, we know that that is running as a SUID, so that's awesome. We'll click on that one. And now we'll go to that specific area, and it'll tell us all about that attack vector. If the binary has a SUID bit set, it does not drop the elevated privileges. Hey, where have we heard that before, right? And may be abused. We can abuse it. To access the file system, escalate or maintain privileges, access as a SUID backdoor. If it is used to run sh-p, omit the -p argument on systems like Debian that allow the default shell to run with SUID privileges. Okay, So basically what we need to do is just copy this right here. Now this says sudo install, but we can't do sudo, right? I don't know if you can see that. There we go. We can't do the sudo portion of this because we don't have sudo. But we can just try to run this and see what happens. So we're going to copy that and go back to our shell, paste it in, and let's take a look. Now, there's some things we need to modify. Like it said, if you're in a Debian type system, which we saw from our Nmap scan that that's exactly what this is, to take out the -p. The other thing we need to do is take out the // because that tells it to look in my current directory for the find command that they installed in that thing where they were sudoing and which we can't do. So I'm just going to run find, fire it off, and oh look, things have changed. If I do ID, you'll notice that I now have root capabilities, and we can prove that by doing cat etc shadow, which is the file that holds the hashed encrypted values for the passwords for the system. And oh look, I can absolutely see it. And now I could grab these and go to work with a password cracker like John the Ripper or Hashcat and see if I'm able to crack those passwords. That can be a lengthy process, so we won't do that. And we've already got this one, which we know, actually, we do know that one to be true. I don't know how long that would take. We could give it a whirl, but we know what it is. It's orange. And there you go. So hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully that's something you're like, oh, this is a lot of fun. Hacking stuff is a lot of fun, especially when you have permission to do it. You're running it in your own environments and you're learning as you go. And now you can apply these things to something like a pen test. You could run straight through this and take all your screenshots, write your attack narrative, and create a final report, which I highly recommend you do. And that is going to be a great experience for you that you can put on your resume to say, hey, not only am I doing things to learn how to be an effective penetration tester, but I'm also making sure that I'm doing stuff that makes me a professional penetration tester when it comes to things like writing a final report. So great stuff there. Please do that. That is experience that you just can't buy. All right, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, you know what to do. Hit the like and subscribe. Leave me a comment in the comments below. We've also got a Discord server if you want to come hang out with us in the Discord community of Cybercast IRL, which is my weekly live show that comes on Fridays at 9 a.m. Eastern. And there's also Cybercast After Dark, where we typically have some professional from the field that we interview and talk to and ask questions to as well. That happens every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. So I'm sorry, Cybercast IRL is at 10 a.m. Eastern, and Cybercast After Dark is at 9 p.m. Eastern. So hopefully see you there. Until next time, everyone, keep hacking.